Hello, everybody. Joe Bag Donuts here. Welcome back for another episode of Mahoyo. I'm tired. Honestly, I didn't get much sleep yesterday. I had to stay up late because I had a phone call appointment I had to get done like right at the very end of the afternoon. And if I'm a person who falls asleep, I will not wake up to answer my phone. Like either I'll just sleep right through it or like unconsciously roll over and silent it. Not the greatest habit to be into, but is what it is. And also, my new boomstick came in the mail, and I had to go pick it up from the store. So I got that. Yeah, that's the good shit. Ugh. So I am a very, very happy camper with that. 1944. It's probably gonna be a while since I shoot till I shoot it, because either I need to get a lower grain count 30-06 ammo because it's an old rifle and new ammo has more advanced black powder in it that burns a little too spicy, and I don't want to slam the bolt carrier back and like damage it. Either that or I can get like a like an adjuster on the gas block to vent some excess gas if I shoot modern ammo. But I have neither of those, so it's just gonna sit pretty in my corner and I'll ping it every now and again because it's fun and I like the noise and I'm easily entertained like that. Flashing lights and dangling keys is all it needs for me. Anyway, let's get into some flashing lights that are like dangling keys in this part. Next episode? Where am I on? There I am. Because now we got through Aoko, we got through the puppet, now we gotta get through Alice. Probably the most difficult of the bunch. And I'm a little loud in my own ears. The melody stirred an emotion like nostalgia within them. Something once familiar but now lost to this world. They believed, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that it would play for all eternity. From opening stanza to final coda. It was a mysterious siren song, merry yet longing, that heralded a return from dreams to reality. The night shook. The song was spun. Now, their lost paradise was on Earth. Abandoned dreams. Forsaken idols. They all responded to the cry of the blue cat. The name of that bell was Diddle Diddle, Banquet of the Night. All fables made possible, all marvels made real, by the magecraft of Alice Kuonji, more magical than magic itself. Was that a little 3D? I think that was 3D. I didn't get enough, quick enough glimpse at it. Also, expect me to be very mushmouth today. I'm all out of coffee. I don't feel like making some tea because I need to wash my pot, and I'm too lazy to do it. And I worked all night out in the rain. It was raining sideways, but fortunately it was relatively warm for mid-December. It was like mid-40s, so wasn't that bad. Like, fingers weren't freezing off my fucking hand, but, you know, being wet in the wind is still no fun. Alice sat perched atop the clock tower like a black bird of ill omen. She smoothed the ruffles of her skirt as if she were preening.
Alice.
I think that's like what birds do when they like clean their feathers. I don't know. I'm no, oh god, I don't even know what bird scientists are called. You smarty pantses down below will know. There was a tension in Aoko's voice as she lifted her head. The calm atmosphere from a moment prior had long since been shooed away by Alice's gaze. Yeah, I was in front of your school. Sojiro searched his hazy memory. He could not clearly make out her face from this distance, but he was sure he had seen her around town a number of times. Where and when eluded him, however, as the tension in the air kept him from connecting all the dots.
驚いた。随分と仲間思いになったのね、アリス。今夜は私に任せるんじゃなかったっけ?
Aoko readied her guard and took a half step forward, unconsciously. From an objective standpoint, almost looked as though she were protecting the figure beside her. Alice's silence grew even heavier. Her eyes, fixed on the ground below her, were devoid of emotion. An indescribable sense of dread and pressure laid claim over the plaza.
こね
If he strained his ears, he could make out the faint ringing of a bell echoing in the distance. The rippling sound wave seemed, unbelievably, to be emanating from under the ground.
なあ青崎
Oh, that's
あの子
weird.
黙ってて。
Ah, poor Sojiro. Sojiro stepped back, trying to stay out of the way. It was as though he had been told to go to hell for the crime of asking if the girl was Aoko's friend.
そうね。
Frenemies.
仲間思い
Work acquaintances
に当てはまるかは微妙だけど、
with
良くない
With
予
friends
感
like
がしたから様子
these, you
を
know the
見に
rest.
来ただけ。別にあなたの仕事を疑ったわけじゃないわ。それはどうも。どうせならもう少し早くその良くない予感とやらに気づいてほしかったけど。
Yeah, I got a little bit out of hand there.
でもま、ご覧の通り自己解決したわ。夜も遅いし、さっさと帰っていいわよアリス。私の仕事っぷりを疑うわけじゃないんでしょ？
Yeah, you know, everything's done here. Their eyes locked on one another. Alice's stare was uncomfortably cold. Aoko's was bold, daring Alice to to air her complaints. I saw cold and then immediately jumped to heat.
いえ、気が変わったわ。せっかくだし二人で帰りましょう。その方があなたらしいわ。帰りしな、人形の話でも聞かせてちょうだい。
Yeah, just ignore the other guy standing right there. It's fine.
らしいって何よらしいって。いいから帰れ帰れ、ぐうたらアリス。部屋に閉じこもって役に立たないムクドリでも作ってろっての。
You let Sojiro off the hook, right? He was nice to one of your birds. A disappointed sigh escaped Alice's delicate lips. It seemed that the black-clad girl was more astonished than angry.
青子、口にしたくないけど、本気？
Quietly, Alice questioned her roommate of nearly 2 years.
呆れた。二人で秘密を守ると言ったのに。
Well, yeah, it's safe with him, so it's protected.
まだ半端にそっち
He's
側
not
な
gonna
の？
spill the beans.
それとも情でも移った？別に情っていうより私の気分。だいたい方針なんてその場その場で変わるもんでしょ。気分ならなおさらよ。そっちこそ一度した約束は絶対守るなんて時代遅れなんじゃない？
The proverbial knives were out now. No quarter was given, no quarter taken. Sadly, their partnership was one of convenience and had not reached the level of mutual understanding. Their version of friendship was both delicate and unique. When a conflict of opinion arose, each would refuse to budge until the other crumbled. Neither was concerned for the other's plight, at least for now. That was how they liked it.
そうね。今の暴言はあなたらしいとは思うけど。
Thinking you should have nipped those in the bud? Once again, she let out a sigh, even larger than the one before.
言い争いは後にしましょう。そこの彼をいなかったことにするのは私だけで十分だし。
Finally, she struck straight to the point. As if making to move a chess piece, Alice lifted her slender fingers. Man, that whole present past tense thing, it's pretty rough, huh? Look at that, it's a fork. Even this simple action seemed mysterious to Sojiro, the same boy who had been hunted by his classmate Aoko Aozaki and bore witness to an automaton. Aoko's violence and an animated doll. Though perhaps far beyond the realm of logic, both those things were derived from reality. As surprised as he had been, there was no need to think of them as total mysteries. However, when the thing appeared out of thin air from a seemingly unrelated gesture, he had no word for it besides mysterious. Sojiro stood motionless, captivated by the strange performer's magic trick, as the girl's single-finger magecraft turned into an attack directed at him. blue light flew from the side to repel it, annihilating it without a trace.
やば。
Aoko immediately regretted her reflexive shot.
どういうこと？約束を曲げただけじゃなく、ルールまで破
And
る
the
つもり。
fucking rule schmools. All the best mages, anyway, are ones who fucking ignore all those rules. The already chilled midwinter air plunged below freezing. Alice looked calm and collected on the outside, but in reality, she was sometimes even more hot-blooded than Aoko, especially when it concerned her familiars. Accidentally destroying one often would result in a week of silent treatment. But maliciously destroying one, Alice would reserve the right to retaliate without fair warning.
あっちゃー。いつかやるとは思ったけど、ついに敵に触れちゃったか。
Though Aoko was shocked at the depth of her own stupidity, she was also, in fact, a little relieved. She did not intend to make any excuses, and she had no regrets. If she had broken the rules, then so had Alice.
青子。なんていうか。
Tehe. If anything, this took a load off her mind. After all, now there was no going back. Aoko never intended to break her own rules. If there was anything for Aoko to regret, it was putting too much power into her shot.
私的に今夜こいつに死なれるのは困るのよ。なんで日を改めて殺しに来てくれないアリス。いいでしょ？たった一日ぐら
Yeah,
い。
just have it be, 75 years from now. Taking on a pro bono case in the defense of suspect S was the socially acceptable thing.
それは市場。悪い？
ね。
一宿一般の恩義って割と大事にしてるの。私との協定より。ええ。時と場合によっても。
There's no definitives in the world. It's all grays. Sojo's human rights had not yet entered the argument. Girls were busy pouring oil on each other's flames. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them, maybe pour a little oil on each other, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? The girl clad in black was the first to move, or rather, to erupt.
そう。よくわかったわ、青子。私は彼をここで殺す。あなたは彼をここだけ生かす。つまり、私と戦う。
Well, that does seem to be the situation we're in now, isn't it?
そんなのいいわけないじゃない。
Aoko bit back the retort. She was very familiar with Alice's magecraft, and knew painfully how many mystics were hidden in Alice's tiny body. The odds of victory were essentially non-existent. And once the first shot had been fired, Alice Kuonji was without mercy. Whether facing a roommate or a friend, a most beloved family member or a stranger. Once Alice began to fight as a witch, she became a heartless, unflappable monster. Aoko advanced another half-step forward as if to encourage herself. It was far too late to back down now. The situation was no longer a trivial quarrel over a witness. The bedrock of their so-called friendship had nothing to do with their individual abilities, but everything to do with being equals in will. That is why, in order to stay true to herself, Aoko had no room for compromise or deception.
もちろん、あんたを殺すことになっても、そこのバカは生かしきるわ。それに。
Surprised you still got gas in the tank. Magic circuits howled as they kicked into gear. Her body, which had mostly been dormant during the battle with the puppet, ignited, preparing to demonstrate its true worth.
それに、
That was really
ど
disorienting
の
me
道
trying to
最
read
後に
with
は
spinning
殺し合う仲
backgrounds.
でしょ、私たち。
Her courage overpowered any fear she had for her opponent. Turning her body, magic circuits, become like the barrel of a gun, Aoko fired a magic bullet. It was an exceedingly basic magecraft formula. There was no nature interference, no creation of wind, parting of water, or hastening of decay. It was simply the process of converting the imaginary action known as magical energy into something real before realizing it as heat, releasing it as heat. Thus, Aoko's destructive power was equal to her supply of magical energy. The magic bullets she had used against Sojiro were among the most basic single-action magecraft that did not require an incantation. At her present ability, Aoko's main mode of attack, Magic Bullet, could be fired at 3 levels of power. These were at the 2nd level. This required a double-action magecraft, casting through activation of her crest combined with a simplified incantation. You really think that's going to do anything? Yeah, or like anything at all? However, without blinking, Alice dispersed the shot that Aoko had mustered all of her spirit to fire. Yeah, she seems a little over-leveled for you to be fighting her. Aoko tutted in frustration. A swift sneak attack, magecraft that used a simplified incantation, would not be enough to break Alice's guard.
相変わらずお堅いこと。そのから一段と独りよがりになってるんじゃない？
Aoko provoked Alice in order to disguise her own lack of composure. Somehow, Alice seemed delighted by Aoko's bravado.
売り言葉に買い言葉というやつね。
Getting you heated?
こうい
You
う
can feel it?
勢いだけのきっかけは初めてだけど。驚いたわ。こんなくだらない理由でもその気になるものなのね、人間。
Alice giggled. Smiling with heartfelt amazement, Alice gestured her left hand towards the earth. Ooh, don't like that. Zap, 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 zap. Countless utensils shot out from underneath the cobblestone paving the plaza.
しずきくん、後ろに飛んで。
She grabbed his hand as she shouted, jumping backwards before he even had a chance to respond. As if they had wills of their own, the utensils that had suddenly appeared from the ground gave chase. As the barrier of spears grew around them, Aoko and Sojiro put some distance between themselves and the clock tower.
これで終わり？
Just under 30 feet stood between them and Alice. The lethal weapons that had crumbled to stone beneath them fell short of what Aoko had anticipated. They now encircled the clock tower, making the scene look like a burning of a witch at the stake.
普通逆じゃない？ここは私たちを逃がさないよ。
I mean, unless, you know, she's just trying to range you out. The path behind them was safe. They wanted. They could try to make a break for the main gate and escape.
いいの、アリス。悪いけど、逃げられるなら逃げるわ
Poor
よ。
Sojiro doesn't know what's going on at all. If she could just make it back to town, it would be Aoko's win. All she had to do was let Sojiro get away for the night. So if she could get him back to the city, it would be, for the most part, mission accomplished. Yo, you got some fucking Mountain Dew?
Huh?
Or some bio slime? So she had thought. Without even offering a glance at her targets below, Alice carefully and lovingly pulled out a bottle from her pocket.
緑のフラスコ？あれって確か。やば！とにかくファイヤー！
You seem a little slow on the drop on that one. Her shot was deflected with ease. Gone was Aoko's earlier bravado. It was only natural. Aoko had indeed grown as a mage. Over the last 2 years of study, her studies had progressed well, and she'd more or less gotten a grasp on her roommate's tendencies and abilities. Ooh, that's a background. CG. She's got like a fucking Sharingan. This made her conceited enough to believe, under favorable conditions, she'd be able to show Alice a thing or two in a fight. Alice uncorked the magical bottle. A gentle breeze caressed her cheek. Diddle Diddle fled as a new player stepped onto the stage. But from where would it enter? Sound of footsteps, nostalgic parade approached. Hello, someone riding by on a fucking shitty little bike. Ooh, pretty.
うっそ。
Unfortunately, it was true. This was a miracle that Aoko Ozaki, an apprentice mage, had never witnessed. Ooh, this is gonna be a tricky one, huh? The dead came to life. The inanimate awakened. The woods were enveloped by the mist. Fire-breathing lizards lurked in the swamps. Puppets made merry at midnight. Alice Kuonji's slender fingers had transfigured the entirety of the park, as if gently stroking the back of an elderly cat.
いいわ。ごっこ遊びをしましょう。青子。
That's only mildly threatening. For one night, the wasteland of dashed hopes and dreams was restored to its former glory. It was an immortal monster ready to devour reality. Dark fairy tale that, once unleashed, would never let its prey escape.
逃げられるものなら逃げてみせて。どこまで行けるかわからないけど、この夜を越えることができたのなら、あなたの勝ちにしてあげる。
Her declaration marked the start of a desperate battle. The witch in black laughed at her friend. Her musical mirth filled with affection, sadness, and innocent delight. I was about to say desperate battle. No more Heroes 2's desperate struggle. Damn, my joke. It's gone. Faded glory returned to Kitsy Land. The neon glow of innumerable lights illuminated the night. Speakers filled the air with the sound of vinyl music. Merry-go-rounds, small and large, whirled round and round. All in all, made for a mind-bending spectacle. Certainly possible to power the facilities by transmuting magical energy into electricity via alchemy. That said, this is quite a bit. Simply supplying the park with electricity would not have brought back the life which was broken. The young woman did this not by mixing chemicals into a compound, but by melting down divine providence into a witch's brew.
まずいわね。アリスのプロイは何個か見てきたけど、今回のは桁が違う。
Yeah, Alice definitely seems to be one of them magic item kind of mages.
セット。
Stifling her anxiety, Alice fired up the crest on her right arm. Magic circuits were a mage's engine, and their crest was software that assisted their magecraft. For the fledgling mage Aoko, this was her trump card. All she had to do was supply magical energy to her crest-based formula. It may not have been the strongest magecraft, but it was hers, proof that she was the successor of the Aozaki lineage.
講師2層、直流数も。
The pattern of her crest shifted to execute the formula, which then connected to her magic circuits. The process resembled trains changing rails, a puzzle involving dozens of circuits. She constructed it as swiftly as possible without sacrificing the quality of its construction. Instant magecraft cast without an incantation would not be enough to reach Alice Kuonji. Aoko had gauged the strength of Alice's defense with her initial shots. She would dial up the power 5 times the next time, driving 20 tons of force into her target. Alice had the protection of that thick, hanging fog and the dense barrier around her. However, this attack would be more than enough to pierce through both. Well, you don't sound so sure about it. If Aoko struck home, at best it would cave in Alice's chest and end the fight. At worst, it would at least knock Alice down from her position atop the clock tower.
そろそろいいか
Then
な。
she's in fisticuffs range. No, you cannot go home. As always, there was one guy who spoiled the deadly tension, pulling Aoko out of her killer mode. Sojiro had been looking back and forth between Aoko and Alice in confusion.
それでどういう話になったんだ？
He said it like he might ask for directions to the train station. I don't know why there was a line break there. Really threw me off. Normally she would have lashed out screaming in response, but his entirely serious tone shocked her more than it angered her.
信じられない。慣れてきた。
Mm-hmm.
私。
Now that you got a pet, you need to fucking clean up after it. And all the little fun responsibilities that come with it. Aoko swallowed back a sigh and returned her focus to activating her crest.
交渉は決裂。ちょっと怒らせすぎた。あの子から見れば、
Yeah, you
まあ
seem
いい
to have
機
a
会
habit
だ
of
し、
doing that to people.
遊園地ごと私を亡き者にしようって腹ね。
Sojiro tilted his head, as if begging for a simpler explanation.
私、割とあの子に恨まれてるから。捕まったが最後。どんな風に殺されるか想像
Yeah,
すらでき
mages
な
are
い。
little fucked up creatures. I've seen all the bad ends in Stay Night.
要するに、
She doesn't seem as bad as Ilya, but, you know,
あの子をどうにかしないと生きて帰れないってこと
it's
よ。
not saying much.
そんなとばっちりだ。
Yep. Well, you're more like the
まあ
target of the
そういうこ
portal,
とにな
so.
るかもね。
As Sojiro protested in a tone wholly inappropriate to the situation, Aoko let another blast rip from her right arm. She's not aiming at Sojiro, though. A little earlier in that day, and Aoko would have been happy to do exactly that. But now, her attention was focused on the girl in black atop the clock tower. Just pretend it's Sojiro, and you might get a little extra oomph into that shot. Ooh, a bunch of little Pegasi? I don't know what the plural of Pegasus is. Since it's us, that's gender neutral? I think that's gender neutral in Latin. Even though I'm pretty sure Pegasus is Greek? Or is it Latin? I don't know. Going off the basis of it being Latin and gender neutral, the plural would be I think, so Pegasi. Don't quote me on that. She could hardly grasp the situation amidst her astonishment. She fired the strongest, fastest magic bullet she had the ability to conjure, and Alice blocked it. That was to be expected. When Alice set her mind to defending herself, such an attack was child's play. But what had just happened? Something she'd never seen before had leapt to Alice's defense. A team of horses? A plague of locusts? No. Those things existed in this world, unlike what Aoko had just witnessed. Normal creatures cannot form like a spontaneous cloud of fog and then dissipate just as quickly into the night sky. So who's paying for the electric bill? That's not horrifying at all. Impossible things moved in impossible ways. Alice was not even supplying them with any power source. Those things never needed power in the first place. Those broken and discarded things did not need to follow the rules of mankind. It was an invasion of fairy tales. Compared to them, the automaton looked merciful. Suplex the train. Autonomous puppets were products of magecraft, but even then they behaved as puppets should. These newly animated things, however, were nothing of that sort. Empty vessels became living creatures. Dummies warped into malformed beings. There was a fog so dense with magical energy, it visibly spread to all corners, bringing with it a monstrous welcoming party that easily numbered over 1,000, and probably violates some copyright. Looking at that fucking Dumbo pig. You think Disney's lawyers are gonna let you guys get away with that? Not the Mahoyufian, but like, you know, the in-universe people in Kitsy Land. Then again, this is the 80s. That's kind of like the Disney Dark Age, so they didn't really have that money to throw around. People forget it, but like before the Renaissance, like the Disney Renaissance in like the 90s, they were about to go under. Spurred on by the shuddering sensation running down her spine, Aoko fired a barrage of single-action magic bullets. Well, her impulsive attack scattered futilely. Futilely? Futilely? No. The Knights of the Merry-Go-Round soared into the sky. Green, fire-breathing lizards flocked. The bakeries opened their doors once again, and human-sized loaves of fresh bread marched from their ovens as platoons of newly baked soldiers.
Aozaki, uchiro!
Aoko and Sojiro were completely surrounded. The Ferris wheel creaked as it gently turned. A rickety train car raced about the roller coaster tracks with Kitsy, tears streaming down its face, aboard. Alice, this wasn't weird! It was a grossly twisted fantasy. The girl in black reigned over the insanity-fueled park. Oh, now we're screwed. Aoko was transfixed by the scene unfolding around her. Then, she realized what was happening. What, you stuck in an illusion?
そうだ、これは。
Alice had once told her of Meister's familiars. Among them were three of particular notoriety, one which she recalled being capable of something similar to this. And it was called...
プロイキッシャ、フラットスナーク。
Cool. Those
青崎、だ
words
から
meant
後ろ
nothing to me. It probably has to do with, I don't know, some German fucking old fable that I'm not familiar with. Oh god, I haven't played Final Fantasy VI. Sabin suplexed the train. That... What the fuck is that? Oh, it's just really windy outside and fucking branches were hitting my sunroom window from the bush I have out in front. Struck by Aoko's bullets, the creatures exploded into splinters. It was clear Aoko's shots were becoming more powerful, but it was also the case that these beings were less robust than your average automata.
しずきくん、こっち。
Well, yeah, if they're fucking amusement park attractions, they're paper mache and fucking chicken wire. Aoko turned away from the clock tower, grabbed his hand, and began to run.
青崎、
ごめん、これ無理。逃げるわよ。
逃げるってどこに？
I don't know, anywhere.
どこって、とにかく行けるところまで。
She shouted as though trying to persuade herself as she valiantly cleared a path. Ako's magic bullets flew like a scream, blowing away the creatures that stood in their way. Or rather, simply gathered around, she made a hole for them to escape through. God, I hope no fucking branches fall on my car. Parked in the little driveway next to my house, it's all fucking trees overhanging it, and this is some nasty wind. What I really hope is that a branch doesn't fall down and like rip off the one power line that's connecting my house to like the rest of the, rest of the lines. That would suck. Big time. Magic bullets exploded like blue fireworks. Aoko and Sojiro ran down the bumpy brick road. How do you get blue in fireworks again? I think it's like you do like a... Oh God. It's like a copper sulfate? I can't remember if that's blue or green. Maybe it's both, but it just depends on like how much you use. There's ways to get like different color fire. It's not good for you to breathe in the smoke though. Their bond, forged in the heat of battle, went far beyond mutual convenience. They headed for the park's exit at full speed without exchanging a word or a look. The weirdness only extended as far as the park border, so they'd be safe as long as they made it outside. But, speaking in pure numbers, the difference in strength was 2 versus an army. Or rather, 1 versus an army, also doing an escort quest. Sojiro was hardly useful in this situation, And man power wasn't really the issue here, since they were facing puppets.
さっきの大丈夫？上からこうでっかいハサミが落ちてきたけど。
Aoko shouted as she blasted away the monsters that stood in their path. There's no time to stop for breath, or even to look back.
なんとかギリギリ。
As Sojiro pursued, his voice too had naturally become shrill. 5 minutes earlier, they had broken out of the siege at the plaza surprisingly fast. It seemed that the residents' awakening differed case by case, with the larger creatures taking additional time.
ラッキー、朝に弱いタイプばっかと見た。
Hahaha. Aoko joked as she mowed down a small fry that popped up. But then, without warning, something outrageous extended its way from above them. I don't even know what that is. It was the claws of a 60-foot lobster adorning the roof of a seafood restaurant. Lobster. Its pincers were like guillotines. As Aoko and Sojiro cut across the front of the restaurant, the Red King pressed in a tremendous speed, keen on splitting each of them in two.
しずきくん、言えた！こっちはダメ！
Yeah, maybe try a different route. The gate was just on the other side of the restaurant, but they had to take the long way around in order to lose the giant lobster snapping at their heels. Waiting along their detour had been a horde of monsters, too many to count.
なんとかギリギリ。
Sojiro called down in response, recalling just how narrowly he had avoided his head being severed clean from his body.
手前。うわ、なんだあれ。焼きたてか。
You hungry?
そうみたいね。要するに下級兵士よ。
Aoko halted her sprint and set her crest into full operation.
距離7、6、5メートル。あの程度ならスナップだけで事足りる。
They're also bred, you know. Probably don't get the highest defense. Sliding along the brick path, she brandished her right arm. She loosed a shower of magic bullets. Snap was the single action spell that favored rate of fire over power, and it mowed down the monsters with satisfying pops.
青崎そっちも。
了解。
Hey yo, fucking Gatling gun? Blue explosions bloomed along the lamp-lit promenade. Aoko's curtain of fire fanned out like a beautiful star mine fireworks show. The toy breadman turned to charcoal. Sounds like me whenever I try to make bread for
数
the
でこ
first
そ押され
time.
てるけど、この状態が続くなら逃げ切れる。
But I definitely didn't let it rise for long enough because I tried to make like a homemade sourdough starter. And yeah, that didn't work. Like nearly not enough yeast. The thing was like 3.5 inches thick when it was supposed to be like a full loaf of bread. It was still good. I ate it, but you know, it wasn't great for making sandwiches.
しずきくん、そっちは。
いない、空いてる。ここからなら入り口の東側に出られるはずだ。
The magical barrier that would leave an average spellcaster blue in the face, the novice mage broke through the siege. Hello, Robin. Are you here to spy on us or help us? Meanwhile, a single bird keenly watched everything unfold. Chirp, cheep, 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 chirp. The moment the blue bird descended into its master's field of vision and made a high-pitched call. The girl listened expressionlessly to the report.
構わないわ。予想通りよ。撃つこと、壊すことしか脳がなくても、青子の魔力の使い方は波じゃないから。
The robin flapped its wings as it tweeted in response. Perhaps it was criticizing Alice for complimenting Aoko. Or perhaps it was jealous of Aoko for being complimented by Alice. A lot of personality this little familiar has. Alice could barely make sense of its chirping rant. Aoko Ozaki was a novice mage. Till just 2 years ago, She was someone who grew up with no background in magecraft. Compared to Alice, who was raised as a witch from birth, Aoko possessed far less talent and experience. Winning was an impossibility for Aoko. In a contest of skills in magecraft, 10 times out of 10, Alice would be declared the victor. However, battle to the death was a different story. Alice Kuonji was not a mage suited for battle. Aoko Aozaki, on the other hand, was built for it. In a contest that pitted a magical energy against magical energy, even Alice would concede that Aoko had the upper hand. Aoko's manipulation of magical energy was extraordinary. The scale of her magic circuits was smaller than that of Alice's, but their rotational speed, durability, and quality of magical energy produced, not to mention the efficiency, were otherworldly. That was Aoko Ozaki's hallmark. Though she had many failings when handling sophisticated formulae, just 2 years of practice, Aoko had surpassed Alice in simple formulae that merely required an energy input. She also had genius-level instincts and adaptability. Though Aoko was not particularly proficient at executing magecraft, she was terrifyingly fast. If she had been born outside the Aozaki clan, she would have doubtlessly risen to fame as a competitive sharpshooter.
でも残念ね。
In a straight shootout, Alice did not stand a chance. Alice Kuonji had never bothered to learn primitive magecraft like magic bullets in the first place. She was the classic puppeteer. Her familiars would carry out all the particulars of battle as her arms and legs.
制限時間には気づいているわよね、青子。
Cool, so I just gotta close the distance and land a good one on her chin and it's game over.
魔力はいくらでも貸してあげるけど、あなたの魔弾はあと半時で値崩れするわ。
Chirping as if in agreement, the robin took flight. It had been nearly 10 minutes since Alice had made the amusement park into her dominion. To what would the green fog give birth to next? Aoko and Sojiro, still running about, soon come to understand the gravity of their situation. You memorize the layout? Well, I know you work here, but... technically work here. Running non-stop at full speed had them at their limits. Their breath ragged, the two fled around the corner. Amusement park though it was still the infamous Kitsy Land. It would have taken a high school student 20 minutes to sprint the entire circumference of the park. So it's probably like 5 kilometers around, if I had to guess. Like, if that's a good runner that's doing it, then yeah, the 5 kilometer perimeter sounds about right for the size. Though they were now intimately familiar with the park's geography. Yeah, they ain't making it easy. It was changing beyond recognition. This transformation was not limited to the park's residents either.
Aozaki.
何を？
言いたくないんだけど、この遊園地広くなってないか?
Yeah, you're not really in like standard Euclidean space here, bud. Things are getting wacky. It was. The problem wasn't as mundane as mistaking the location of the exist? You mean the exits? Or getting lost in the terrain? No, the park was warping and twisting in upon itself. Even now, the structure was expanding and growing like that of a living creature. Soon, the pair noticed that the mob encircling them had grown even stronger. Trusting her back to Sojiro, Alice summoned all her effort just to keep from whining. No one would have thought twice if it had just been Sojiro cowering in shock and terror. But Aoko doing the same? She bore responsibility for causing and then dragging him into this mess. She cannot afford to succumb to panic.
大丈夫。落ち着け私。遊園地の果てはある。遠いけど、鉄柵はちゃんと見える。フラットスナークだって制限なしってわけじゃない。 外に逃げるって選択は正しいはず。現状外までは目算で1キロぐらいだけど。
That's rough. Up until now, they had been too concerned with simply running. Their breathing had become labored. They had to run another mile without rest. They'd end up collapsing along the way.
青崎、体大丈夫か？
I mean, once you vomit and get your second wind, you know, you're fucking good to go. The whisper from beside her pulled Aoko back to reality.
大丈夫
At
だ
least
けど
that's what it is for me.
ちょっと
I'm one of those
一
people
息
who
入れ
get
たいわ
like
ね。
nauseous real easily when running. Like after a mile, like if I'm really pushing it and doing like a real good pace, I'll probably puke my guts out at some point during the next mile.
賛成。ここから休みなしで外周まで走るのは。
It really sucks when I'm on a timed run and I lose like an entire minute because I'm doing a crab walk shuffle on the side of the track, trying not to get vomit on like the rubberized part so that way no one else steps in it.
驚いた。しずきくんも外まで走ろう派とは。
After saying this, she let slip a giggle. Far from debilitated by panic, her comrade in arms had been analyzing the situation and forming an escape plan.
ちょっとだけ建物に逃げ込むのは。
気は進まないけど、それしかないわね。
The bread men had them completely surrounded. Perhaps this might have been a problem for an average person, but for Aoko, breaking through their formation to get to a building would be a cinch. The issue was...
問題はどんな店を選ぶかってこと。
She considered the characteristics of the transforming park. What would pose a danger, and what was safe. The most important factor was not the strength or the complexity of the building.
そうだ。選ぶならあの単純さで
I
正しい
mean,
はず。
considering it's all like the magical like park stuff that's changing, go find like, I don't know, like the fucking finance office for the park staff. You know, something with no magic, whatever, that'll just suck the life out of you. Not literally, but like, you know, figuratively. It'll suck the magic from all the dreams in the park and, you know, reduce it to fucking dust. After routing the monsters, Aoko hopped behind the counter, soon followed by Sojiro.
カウンターに隠れてて。
Like she was in a western shootout, Aoko squared off against the monsters, using the counter as cover.
ビンゴ。ここならスナーク化しないんだ。
After assessing the current state of the enemy, Aoko set herself under the counter. What are you, in a concession stand?
あいつらは。
店の周りで地団打踏んでるわ。理由があってね。
Something that's not
あい
an
つらはここには入っ
attraction.
てこられないのよ。
Aoko gave the perplexed Sojiro a grin and took a deep breath. She heaved a heavy sigh of relief and fatigue.
とりあえずコーヒーブレイクね。ここは遊園地の中でも遊びのない場所だから、あい
Look
つ
at
ら
me,
にと
I'm
って
so
は鬼門
smart.
な
I
のよ。
fucking get how this works.
レジスターも調理器具も最近のものだし、擬人化されたマスコットもないし、スナーク化するにはちょい文明犬すぎるってこと。
スナーク。
Fucking conceptual magic.
あいつらの名前よ。つけたのは私じゃなくてアリスなのかしらね。あの子の性格的にちょっと想像できないけど。
Oh, I thought you were done. I'm sorry. Sorry, Aoko. Perhaps now at ease from knowing that they were safe, Sojiro seemed enthralled in her explanation. Aoko could not help but chuckle as Sojiro nodded sagely. It was certain that he had no idea what she was talking about. Normally, this would have irritated her, but this time she was grateful for the warmth of his strange sobriety.
それはともかく調子良さそうだな、青崎。
Mistaking her smile for composure, Sojiro broke into a smile himself. It was just another link in the chain of misunderstandings, but there was no need to redress it.
あれ？あなたから見てもわかる？私のマダンの威力が上がっているの。
そりゃミラーハウスで散々追いかけ回されたからな。 あの時と同じ動作なのに物騒さが増していれば。
No, it's like on the
嫌でも
receiving
わかる。
end, so seeing them, getting sent out, you're like, oh damn, that one looked pretty good.
でもいいのか？確
That's
か
real
数に
oomph to
限り
it.
があるとか言ってただろう。もう随分撃っちまったけど、20、30じゃ効かないぞ。
Well, there's a lot of magical energy in the air, fucking... Oh god, what was it, like... Odd, Odo, or however you want to pronounce it, and like prana,
あんた時々あれよね。
Take it from the atmosphere instead of from yourself.
Hmm?
Your opinion of him improved, just a little bit.
なんでもない。私の魔弾の威力が上がっているのは単純に魔力の濃度の問題。
Mm-hmm.
さっきから霧がかかってるでしょ。あれ全部魔力なのよ。
I'm so smart.
弾を
I'm
撃つ
so
ための
smart.
燃料と思って。
Look at me understanding the vaguest, I mean not the vaguest, the simplest Nasuverse concepts. Magical energy was divided into two broad categories. The first was Ode, produced inside the mage's body. The second was Mana, which filled the atmosphere. At the moment, the amusement park had turned into a fairy tale land overflowing with mana. Though it meant nothing to the average person, to a mage it was a paradise where spells could be cast as much as one pleased.
じゃあ残り魔力とやらは気にしなくていいのか。注意すべきは怪我と体力だけ。
まあ個人的な責任においてはその限りね。
I mean, Aoko has it easy. She can just fucking reinforce her legs and run like a gazelle, but, my boy Sojiro's not so lucky. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief. From Sojiro's perspective, more so than the monster she mowed down, Aoko was the biggest bully on the playground. He had been concerned about what would happen should her magical energy be exhausted, but luckily for him, she was far from surrendering her crown.
頼りにしてくれるのは嬉しいけど、ぬか喜びよ。あんな雑魚たち、ただ動いているだけのガラクタなんだから。スナーク本体は当然として、
With
ア
actual
リスが
big
他
boys
の
be
童
able to
話
get
の
in
怪
here?
物を出してきたら、私じゃどうにもならない。
他の童話の怪物。遊園地をこんな風に変えたやつ以外にまだいるのか？
そう。プロイキッシャーって名付けられた、私たちでさえ目を背けたくなる反則。
Why?
不可能な夢物語をも再現する時代に取り残されたデタラメよ。
You're losing me here. Sojiro's expression seemed to be calling her out on the hypocrisy.
あのね、私たちはちゃんと現代に寄り添った魔術師よ。できないこともあるし、当たり前のことだけど、近代兵器にはかなわない。20世紀、まあいろんな戦争の後押しで、
Yep.
兵器の進化は私たちを超えちゃったから。
And a whole bunch of mages died in both of them.
けど、あの子のは違う。どんなに人間の技術が進歩しようと関係ないって怪物なの。例えば、あのブレッドマンいるでしょ。あいつには自動拳銃とか効かないわよ。多分、意味が分かっていないから。
One would assume, anyway. Aoko casually gestured outside, past the counter.
アリスの使い魔は、全てが空想によってこねられた神秘なの。前提からしてありえないことだから、通常の物理法則と折り合いが悪い。空想と現実は両立しないっていう、ごく当たり前の理由でね。
One's gotta cancel out the other.
なるほど。ブレッドマンってのはあの動く焼きたてパンのことなんだな。
Pretty wacky, am I right? Sojiro seemed to have ignored the majority of Aoko's explanation and only reacted to the part that caught his curiosity.
話を戻すけど、あいつらと近代兵器の相性は最悪。ロケット弾でも効果はないわ。意思の疎通、秩序の共有ができてないから。プロイキッシャーにとって彼らの世界には存在しないもの、意味がわからないものは触れることなく無賛する。彼らに通じるのは同じ神秘を帯びた魔力だけっていうデタラメぶりよ。もう完全に概念空間っていうか概念宇宙っていうか。
You're losing it here.
要するにあいつらは伝承防御っていう特別なルールを持っていて、単純に強い力、強い魔術じゃ効果が薄いの。
So what? We
元
need to
に
get
あ
a
った童話に
fucking
ちなんだ
vorpal
欠点を
blade.
つかないと倒せない。ギリシャ神話のアキレスあたり分かりやすい例えなんだけど、知ってる？
I mean, yeah, but like, how in depth we going? Sojiro shook his head. Well, he's from the mountains. Of course, he wouldn't
無
be
事帰
familiar
れ
with
た
the
ら鳥
Iliad.
丸あたりに教えてもらって。定番だけどいい話よ、あれ。
Sojiro was feeling pretty lost, but he did his best to grasp the situation. Thought the ploy kickshaws were scary enough to chase Aoko, and the puppet. He thought that ploy kickshaws were scary enough to chase Aoko and that puppet from before out of the house barefoot. You mean them just running around barefoot? What do you mean? I don't understand that sentence very well. Certainly, the scene before them was the stuff of nightmares. But Sojiro had a different way of thinking.
やっぱり青崎の方が怖くないか？
あんた死ぬの？
Sojiro waved in protest, silently pointing out that she made his case for him.
あのね、今私たちを取り囲んでるのは
Well,
お
yeah,
まけ
my
に
guy's
過
just
ぎない。
rolling with the punches. You know, she's just like, oh, so that's how it is. Nothing to be afraid of. Just accept it and move on.
アリスにとってあのブレッドマンもロブスターもソーセージ屋のミンチマシーンも全部が全部私が撃ってる魔弾より価値がない。いい？あの動くマスコットたちはね、ただのおまけなの。アリス。
Yeah, they're
呼
ads.
吸ってこれが？
Trash mobs.
私だって考えたくないわよ。でもそれが現状。たった一体の童話の怪物だけで私たちは手一杯。
Well, I would hate to see one of the roller coasters just fucking turn into a giant serpent.
そういうわけだから、アリスがあと一体でも追加したら諦めて。
追加ってこれに制限はないのか？
It's fucking magic, bro. I don't gotta explain shit.
あの子が出し惜しみしなければ、まだ何体かストックはあるでしょうけど。まあ、成立する条件はあるわね。例えば、川がないと目を覚まさない怪物もいる。この遊園地、噴水はあるけど川はないでしょ。元
Okay.
になった童話縛りなの。あの子の使い魔は。
童話ってかけそばとか？
The what? I'm not very familiar with my Japanese folktales, my guy.
ここに川がないのは不幸中の幸いね。もしあった
Like,
ら
I'll recognize some,
もっと
but
直接
you
制圧
can't be
に向いた
pulling
やつが
fucking
出
one
て
out
き
of
て
the
た。
weeds like that. Aoko continued, completely ignoring Sojiro.
話の続きだけど、アリスの魔術の基本はマザーグースって知らないか？
Yeah.
イギリスの歌で遊び心に富んだメルヘンチックな内容よ。ただそっち系のプロイキッシャーは怖くないの。
I mean, no, not really.
みんなそれなり
Most of
に
Mother Goose
なんと
fables
か魔術にも
aren't,
落とし込める範囲だから。
scary. You know, quote unquote.
聞きたく
They're
ない
not
んだけど、
fucking grim.
そっち系じゃないのは？
Brothers grim,
マザ
that
ーグー
is.
スを
Not
下
like
地にした
grim as in
とある
like
創作童話系。
a vibe or genre.
あの子のお母さんが好きでね。こっち系のはどいつもこいつも尋常じゃない。私でこの遊園地を生き返らせたのはこっち系よ。多分フラットスナークってやつだと思う。私も聞き流していたから詳しくはわからないけど。
Understandable. I'm hazy on the details too. I haven't read Mother Goose in probably over fucking 22 years. Sojiro swallowed the discomfort making its way up his throat. He really wanted her to explain things in a little less vaguely, but something she had just said necessitated further investigation.
待て青崎、あの子の話を聞き流したってなんで？
いや、説明してもらったのは随分と前だし、あの頃はアリスの話あんまり信じられなかったのよね。私が素人だと思って大げさに自分の魔術を語ってくれてるな、舐められてるなとか。
In truth, if anyone hadn't taken the lesson seriously, it was Aoko. She would learn that lesson firsthand soon enough when she experienced just how real Alice's monsters were. She also discovered how heretical the Meister witches truly were in the world of magecraft.
その聞き流した内容は？
何でも強力な結界を張るプロイだって。 アリスが受け継いだプロイは山ほどあるけど、その中でもえりすぐりの一つよ。捨てられたもの、忘れられたものを童話的に蘇らせるやつで、
Oh,
今まで誰も破ったことが
yeah,
ない
this is
と
a
か。
really fucking bad environment to fight this in, ain't it?
それでついたあだ名が触れられぬもの。
You're walking in a conceptual minefield right now.
フラットスナークじゃないのか？
それもあだ名。とにかく正体がわからないやつばっかりなんで、一つの個体に複数の名前が付けられるの。
Okay, makes sense.
フラットスナークはその中でも正体不明さはトップランクのデタラメぶりよ。
I don't know what a snark is or why it's flat, but
あなた
sounds like a kind of
ルイス・キ
fish.
ャロルのスナーク狩りって本知ってる？
Oh, is the snark the fake bird?
いや、そもそもルイス・キャロルというのは。
そっからか。ドジスン教授はそうね、特殊性癖を持った妄想紳
Yeah,
士
give
っ
us
て
the
と
cliff
こ。
notes.
まあこっちは別にどうでもいいか。人によっては時間の無駄だろうし。今重要なのは彼が残した著作の方。スナーク狩りはね、スナークって呼ばれる正体不明の怪物を捕まえようと奔走する冒
Oh,
険
that's
家
a
たち
different
の
one.
話なの。
What's the one about the fake bird?
キャロルらしい皮肉ばっちり、支離滅裂、意味不明、結末不在の本当に困った本で、一行は島で苦しみつつ最終的にはスナークを見つけるものの、見つけたベイカーは唐突に姿を消して終わってしまう。よくわからないもの探しに奔走する人間の風刺なんだけど、この遊園地において誰がベイカーで何がスナークかは言うまでもないでしょ。
Aoko elected not to share this, but Flat Snark had other popular names as well. The Enigmatic Island, the Five-Dimensional Plane. These names were not given to it by Alice, but rather muttered by mages who the Meisters defeated. In mathematics, snark is a term used in graph theory to refer to contradictory or impossible planar graphics. You've lost me. I went to summer school for geography. I'm not geography. Fucking geometry. Oh, hey, it's the Doomsday Sock. Great. And it's real loud today. If you haven't heard it before, I live right across from a volunteer fire station, and a lot of the time there's not enough people there. And when there's not, they send that out, so that way all the volunteer fighters can come in to the station and get ready to go on their call. My landlord didn't tell me about it when I moved in. It plays at all hours of the day. Doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m., fucking 2 in the afternoon, or what time is it right now? 10 a.m. It'll just go. It'll just go like this for a bit until it's done. If you're outside, it like hurts your ears because you can hear it like from the next town over. It's awful. I hate it. The first night I stayed here, there was a thunderstorm blowing through, so I'm like, is that a fucking tornado siren? It was not. Someone had probably just like crashed their car or got it stuck in a ditch, and they needed to call in the firefighters. But I'm like, fuck, dude. And then I spent the night in the basement on my air mattress because I had no furniture yet. A plane, proven to be unable to exist in this world, was given the name, apt for an ill-fated existence paradoxical in nature. The fairy tale monster ascribed this name was said to hold no form discernible by man. Aoko had declined to mention something else. Flat Snark was a fairy tale monster that could grow. It would hide somewhere in the amusement park, continuously exhaling magical energy until the park completely transformed into a fantasy land.
脅かしてもしょうがないし。
何か言ったか？
別に
Oh god, are you one of those people who
簡単に
thinks
言
out
って
loud?
童話世界の再生がフラットスナークの力なの。この遊園地との相性は抜群でしょうね。何しろもともとが童話を元にした遊び場だから。
If this had been a business district, for example, Flat Snark would have posed far less of a threat. At most, its power would be limited to projecting the shadow of a dinosaur onto a building's window panes.
あ、だからここは安全だって
Sojiro realized that something was wrong when he noticed a gelatinous liquid dripping onto his back. He looked up at the ceiling. Their eyes met. Before he had a chance to think, Sojiro hopped up from the floor. Taking the initiative, he jumped out from behind the counter. Busy trying to stop him from committing an act of suicide, she also came to her feet. Immediately, she noticed something being brought to life overhead. Oh, that's very big. Much larger than I had anticipated. The gargantuan mouth clamped shut. With no mascot to speak of, the burger joint itself began to transform into one giant monster. I'm not into clowns. I don't get it. Like, I don't think they're scary, but I don't think they're funny, and I'm certainly not into the clussy. Aoko aired out her grievances as she ran. There was no safe haven left. Moment by moment, the last remnants of civilization were being eroded away by fairy tales. Oh, look at that, it's starting up again. For some reason. Back to back. That's actually pretty rare. It usually doesn't do that. Now we get to listen to it with these lovely BMG. It's probably not as bad on your guys' end with like the noise cancellation I have on my microphone. If I stop talking, it should be a lot quieter because it'll try to suppress the sound. But I have to suffer through it, which means you guys have to suffer through it. It was worse this summer when I had my AC unit in one of my sunroom windows, so that way it was able to get through the, like the ventilation slits in the AC unit and past the fan, instead of just getting blocked by the entire glass pane of the window. But it's really loud today. I don't know if like the wind is blowing in this direction, so it's like carrying the sound waves extra, easily. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm gonna go over there and sabotage it. I think it's on top of a water tower where the siren is, and well, I may or may not have a new boomstick, so we'll see. For legal purposes, that was a joke. The amusement park had reached the final stage of snarkification. It was not just the mascot characters that had been granted life. Like the burger joint, even the buildings had begun to transform. The roller coaster that made its way down the park writhed and twisted like a Chinese dragon. Just had to open my big mouth. Aoko and Sojiro stared, dumbfounded by the Ferris wheel, which had grown to over 250 feet in height. Hordes of breadmen closed in on them as if to offer tickets. Maybe couples discount right to the top? Mobs of trinkets, actual kickshaws, rampaged the park. Whenever a hole was punched in the envelopment, it was instantly filled. It was a battle of attrition with no end in sight. That was a matter of course, as there were a few fairy tales about limited resources.
なんかどうしようもないぞ。こいつら増える一方だ。
スナーク本体を探して。童話の怪物には本体に当たる器物があるの。
How are we supposed to know what it is if it's something that doesn't have form, which means there's no way to describe it? Is it just you'll know it when you see it kind of thing?
本体ってどんな？
さっき言ったでしょ。童話の怪物は現実にないものだって。今までいなかったおかしなやつとか、現実じゃありえないもの。
Literally everything in this park to that guy? He's of no help.
おかしなやつって例えば
You're talking to a man with no frame of reference.
命のある人形とか空飛ぶゴーカートとか。
Aoko paused her firing for a moment. After saying this aloud, she realized just how deep their grave was dug. The amusement park was a treasure trove of fairy tale-esque creatures on any given day. Who could say what was impossible amidst the newly transfigured knickknacks running around?
そっか、おかしくないやつなんて一つもないんだ。この中に紛れ込んでる。
Hoping that she was wrong, Aoko bit her bottom lip. Flat snark was a type of ploy that deployed bounded fields. Seeing as it was commanding so many familiars, it would not be unusual for its main body to have little or even no defenses. Furthermore, if it was modeled from a story about being untouchable and unidentifiable, it would be logical to assume that it would collapse in on itself shortly after being discovered.
逆に言えば、見つければ私たちの勝ち。そんな脆いやつが雑魚に紛れ込む。木の葉を隠すなら森の中って言うけど。
This was closer to the truth than Aoko realized. As long as there was the slightest possibility of it being hit by one of Aoko's stray bullets, it would not dare to appear in front of them. Its true form was orchestrating the park from somewhere safe.
でも、どこかに見えているはず。スナークは本の主題だ
Oh,
も
if
の。
it's looking after the
常
whole
に
park,
ページ
maybe
のどこかにいない
somewhere
と、
high
主
up.
人公の資格がない。
But where? Thinking in the most basic terms, the Ferris wheel was very safe, as well as a symbol of the park itself. Perhaps.
あの子を捕まえるのは
Her eyes opened wide at the sudden suggestion. While Aoko had been trying to come up with a plan to overcome this stalemate, it seemed Sojiro had been racking his brain as well. His proposal was a simple one. If they could not find the snark, they just needed to take out its master, Alice. Alice had not moved at all from the clock tower. Even from here, they could make out a figure draped in moonlight.
それは一番ダメ。アリスを殺してもフラットスナークは止まらないし、
Oh, really?
このトンデモが外に溢れ出すことになる。
It would just lose control completely?
だいたい私じゃあの子を殺せないから。
No,
よくて
fair.
半殺しがいいところ。
A bread man, angered at the insult hurled towards its master, moved to attack and was mercilessly burned to a crisp. The two stood back to back, catching their breath. With no plan to speak of and no route of escape, they had reached rock bottom. Well, you know, once you reach rock bottom, there's only one way to go but up. Meanwhile, the oddities were forming a circle around their prey, as if they smelled blood in the water. Were they to be dragged into a bakery for the oven? Minced into the meat grinder at the butcher shop? Skewered and paraded around on top of the carousel? Walked the plank of the thorny pirate ship? After 2 years of slumber, they were eager to welcome their new guests.
一応聞いておきたいんだけど
何？手短にね。今考え事してるから。
ああ、あの連中が何をしたいか嫌っていうほど伝わってくるんだけどそれってあの子の趣味なのかな
I mean, she probably doesn't want to kill you, like on a personal level, but you know, duty, mage, fucking bullshit above personal interest, yada yada. Though she is probably enjoying fucking with Aoko.
その疑問はなかったわ。連中の人間嫌いは遊園地の怨念とフラットスナークの性格じゃない。基本的にまともなやついないから、アリスの使い魔って。あ、でも
Aoko was unable to deny that there were some similarities.
それは結構それで青崎の考え事って止める方
期待させて悪いけどお手上げ。ま、あんたが殺されれば止まるでしょうけど。
それは嫌だ
That's not much
と
of a
りあえず逃げよ
solution.
う
しずきくん
She blinked in surprise at the sudden turn of events. Sojiro, who until now had been meekly following her lead, grabbed Aoko's hand and pulled her into him with a suicidal charge towards the swarm of bread in an attempt to break out of the encirclement.
意味わかんなすぎ。
Well, they are just bread.
なんで今の流れでそうなるのよ、あんたは。
Aoko nonetheless followed Sojiro's uncharacteristically gung-ho lead, cursing him all the while. Sojiro would not be able to break through the surrounding wall of enemies with brute force. Aoko regained her bearings and let fly a spray of magic bullets ahead of Sojiro. They broke through the net and ran as hard as they could. At this point, all that was left to do was what they had planned from the outset. Aim to get out of the park. But not before addressing what needed to be addressed.
なんでよ、さっきはあんなに諦めよかったのに。
Yeah, but that was then. This is now. You know, people are fickle creatures. Change easy. Aoko could not begin to comprehend Sojiro's reaction.
ミラーハウスの時と今は違うだろ。
Yeah.
いいから走れ。
違わないわよ。あんたを殺そうとした私も、あんたを殺したいアリスも、理由の結果が同じよ、私たち。
Though she was wondering what was getting her so worked up, Aoko did not stop. She told herself that the degree of Sojiro's stupidity, charging the breadmen so recklessly, had caused her to lose her cool.
あのね、一緒に逃げてるぐらいで勘違いしないでくれる？言っとくけど私、明日になったらまたあんたを殺しに行くから。死にたくないってんなら、ここで私からも逃げ出したら？
それはまた今度の話だろう。だいたい青崎に殺されるのならいいけど、あの子に殺されるのは嫌だ。
だからなんで？
Well, because she's being mean about it.
だって顔も知らない。話したことさえない相手だ。
Don't know if it's proper to be killed by her. It was like someone had doused water over her blazing fury. Ako's anger was snuffed out by the absurd simplicity of his reasoning.
顔も知らないって。
Could it be that Sojiro did not mind being killed by someone as long as he had met them? Aoko chased behind him, grimacing at the ever-increasing incomprehensibility of it all. From her spot atop the clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar. Flat Snark, the savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided the abandoned by fate with a glimmer of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under her control, but she was still keen to keep the Snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park that had now reached the size of an entire town, the Robin made its situation report.
そう。外を目指しているの。
It seemed Aoko was prioritizing the safety of the boy. Even if it resulted in wasting an entire day, choosing to not capitulate on a decision was very much like her.
青子のことだから、時計台ごと私を焼き払いに来るかと思ったけど。
Well, she probably can't do that and cover for Sojiro at the same time. The blue bird cheeped in response. Was it denying its master's portrait of Aoko? Or agreeing that it was Aoko's style to do exactly that? An outsider might interpret its interjections either way.
退屈？
Yeah, I don't speak bird. The robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wings like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise.
珍しく気があったわね。
Ooh, is that an egg?
いいわ。せっかくのゲームだし、もう少しだけ盛り上げましょう。
Calmly, she pulled out a small object from her pocket. Doesn't seem that small, it's bigger than her fucking hand. It was a dark gray Easter egg, and emanating from it inside it was a ticking of a clock. The robin knew it to be a ploy kickshaw with a bad attitude for exceeding flat snarks, known to be among the best in one-on-one situations. いってらっしゃい。I didn't catch all of it. I know on the top it looked like it said Queen Alice, but it looks like well, it's backwards from my perspective at least. You know, it was going right to the left from the letters. And I guess the bottom or the middle.
いつも通り控えめに壊れてきて。
And together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise disappeared. May I offer you an egg in this trying time? Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was the disappointment of something enormous that was both visible yet overlooked. Aoko and Sojiro continued their dash towards the boundary separating the park from the outside. The curio horde that stood in their way had reduced in number. The iron fence that separated the two from the outside world was just over 300 yards away. Fortunately, there are no particularly large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, that would have spelled the end, but thankfully, it had yet to reach its full strength. The only things that appeared before them were weak oddities that could easily be handled by Aoko's simple magecraft.
これならなんとか。
You just had to go and think that, didn't you? She would have said, make it to the fence, if her lungs would only allow it. Since Aoko was utilizing the ample mana filling the park, her tank of magical energy was nearly full. I'll keep nearly stuttering at every sentence. Coupled with the fact that the condition of her body's circuits was steadily improving to the extent that she would be able to unleash at least one all-out onslaught. It's really hard not to fucking slip on my accent. I almost went onslaught. Until, above her field of vision, something unusual was hovering. It was locked on Sojiro, hovering 10 feet above him over to one side.
しずきくん、ちょっと。
Yeah, that's a little suspicious, ain't it?
ああ、さっきからついてきてる。
Sojiro had seemingly noticed it before Aoko, hence his previous awkward glances towards the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him not to notice, as the thing was practically glued to him. What is it? Moongrass. I can't really read the bottom. Alice. Queen Alice, but it's upside down. Moongrass. I don't know what moongrass is. Sorry. I know full moongrass is like a healing item in Demon Souls. In terms of size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Tiles covered its exterior, about which a multitude of spinning lights danced about.
卵かな。
Sojiro asked, not really sure what to call it.
卵？卵って言ったら割れる卵。
Yeah, if it's an egg, something's gotta come out of it. Oh, what cute little poof balls. Her bullets bounced off like it was made of rubber. That trait, the ability to deflect all outside interference, confirmed to Aoko that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kickshaw.
やっぱり外からのルールじゃ壊れないか。しずきくん、あれから絶対に目をそらさないで。いい。何があっても見続けること。視界の隅に入れとくだけでいいから。
Oh man, if I can and running and try not to run into things at the same time.
Oh.
What a slave driver. Aoko picked up her pace as she barked orders. The egg man who sat on the wall. Oh, it's Humpty Dumpty. He would crack, just like the tale spoke of. Nothing anyone could do or say would cause him to fall, but the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces.
いわく、王様の軍隊でも元に戻せない数の破片。
It was the Mother Goose poem, Humpty Dumpty. If Sojiro was its target, then the moment he averted his gaze, it would tumble and explode.
まあ、爆発するかどうかは知らないけど。
Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape, the keyhole adorning the front, and writing inscribed upon it, they all made her anxious. If it was an egg, then it meant it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued to stare, once the time came for whatever was inside it to come out, they would have even less ability to conserve their energy.
青崎、早すぎないか。あまり全力で走ると。
後のことは考えないで。いいからしずきくんは卵だけに集中して。
At this critical juncture, Redmen stepped out to join the egg and block their path. Also, I've been told I say egg funny. I can't help it, I'm sorry. The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Aoko should have easily mowed them down. However... Oh no, they're baguettes. Don't get hit on the head, it'll fucking cave your skull in. If Snap failed to do the job, that meant it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw. A formula-triggered bullet encased in a full wind jacket. If her previous shots were the equivalent of a machine gun, and this was her artillery shot. The hard-crust bread that had absorbed her snap, without a dent, scattered into thousands of tiny pieces at her draw's torrent. Aoko's got a torrent. I hope she's using a VPN. Of course, the destruction did not end with just the breadmen. Sending bricks flying, the previously paved road was now bare. Perfect for fucking rolling an ankle with your heeled boots that you're running in. The nearby stalls had turned into a skeleton of steel beams. It was a spectacle that made Sojiro question which force, the wall of breadmen or Aoko's ability to lay waste to things, would obstruct their path more.
ちょっとなんで距離取るのよそこ。そばにいないと危ないじゃない。ほらもっとこっち。言っとくけど、あんたがあいつらに囲まれちゃったらアウトよ。私人質とか意味ないタイプだし、そもそも区別して撃つとかそういうのできないし。
Nice way of saying you have no control. This made a lot of sense to Sojiro. He had not fully appreciated the part about hostages, but he got the gist of it.
つまり、今はどこであろうと危険なのか。
Yeah, Aoko operates under the the KGB hostage rescue playbook of if there are no hostages anymore because they're all dead, there's nothing the terrorists can use as shields, so then we can kill them all too.
あんたね。
She mains fuse. Offended, though she was by his typical naive response, she could not help but be impressed. Sojiro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stayed firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of the melee unfolding before him.
その分なら安心か。物分かりは悪いけど、一度言われたことはきっちり守るあたり、あなたのいいところよね。
そんなことより青崎、俺の気のせいならいいんだけど、さっきのパン。
Sure did.
まあね、あいつら少しずつ強くなってきてるわ。大量生産が軌道に乗ったんで、今度はクオリティアップをテーマにしたのかも。しずきくんでもお察しの通り、ここからは手強くなっていく一方よ。あのパンたちでさえ個体差が出てきたみたいだし、考えたくないけど、そのうちジャム塗ったりレタス乗っけたり、果ては合体したりして。
Sticky. Though she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Sojiro shuddered at the thought of the situation growing even more dire.
じゃあ、そのうちミラーハウスの人形ぐらいに怖くなるのか、あいつら。
Not that bad.
間違いなくね。そこまでレアなパンになったら、私も自分だけで手一杯になる。ところでしずきくん、ああいうのと喧嘩できる？
No, I think he'll get the fucking shit kicked out of him. Sojiro shook his head, a look of complete aversion upon his face.
でしょ？なら急ぎましょう。いろいろ余裕ないんだから。
Aoko took a quick, deep breath, then began to sprint once again. Far in the distance, through the fog, the iron fence waited, 300 paces away. As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. I'm not going to say it. Don't say it. Ignore it. Don't look at it. Don't say it. Sojiro followed after Aoko, holding on to that all-too-convenient hope. But hope was something ever fleeting. It lasted not even 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may well have been the edge of the world. Oh. Yeah, that would pose an issue. Dozens of undulating horizons could be seen, crowding the sky like a giant cloud or a thick curtain, or perhaps groaning lips. It was like it was the end of the road, the outer limit of an outrageous and fantastical realm. And yet, Aoko found it to be much like the last page of an enormous picture book. The sight turned her mind blank. Well, this is about as bad as it gets, she thought. The snark, this island of despair, had at last brought Aoko to her knees as she stared at the swelling border. The park indeed had an end. Even now, as Aoko and Sojiro had expected it to be, a fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled its height and had been made sturdier, another hurdle she had foreseen even before laying eyes on it. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Aoko had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this construction before her went far beyond a mere wall. It was an ocean that separated the underworld from the mortal one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. One or two walls could easily be toppled. Even 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the power left in her body and that which filled the park, putting on a brave front was within her power. She could fully mobilize her circuits and her crest to the point of a burnout and a last-ditch effort, like some reenactment of the parting of the Red Sea.
でもそれで終わり
Even if a path could be opened, she would not have the energy left to walk it. And it would be obvious what would become of her afterwards. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such havoc around their park. Like ants drawn to honey, they would swarm the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt the faint string of remorse. Escaping the park. Looking back on how they had gotten here, Aoko recognized that her choices had been her undoing. Under the golden full moon, beams of steel bent and merged the wireframe sculptures. Merged like wireframe sculptures. It's only a matter of time before the amusement park itself became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars, gathered in the plaza where Alice was, had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Yep, no way to get to her now. Just above the head of the boy beside her, the whispering egg, called Scratchy Dumpty, continued to shuffle what appeared on its surface.
Aozaki.
しずきくん
The boy's voice snapped Aoko out of her trance. Only for a moment. The stark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hope... Oh god, fucking scared the shit out of me. You guys didn't hear that because I have my desktop audio muted, but Windows Update just decided to pop up out of the corner and scare the ever-loving shit out of me. Oh, Jesus Christ. The sheer hopelessness of it all, as it ripped out and snatched away any will she had to resist.
ゲートに行こう。ここはどうしようもないけど、入り口ならもうちょっとマシだろう。
Yeah, you know, conceptually, a gate is something you go through, so it has to let us through, unlike a fence, which exists to, you know, impede passage.
フラットスナークだっけ？ こいつにもルールがあるって言ったじゃないか。なら、
Yeah,
こ
I
れは
can't make
役
a
割の問
door
題だ。
not a door.
初めから鉄柵は通れない壁だけど、ゲートなら出入り口として機能しているかもしれない。
Sojiro had not given in to panic. Aoko found herself honestly admiring Sojiro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics, given the circumstances. Now calm, she steeled her resolve.
そうね、確かに門はあると思う。けどたどり着くのは難しいわ。一番弱かった焼きたてパンですら今はもうあれだもの。
Well, we'll cross one bridge as we get to it, and
広
then
場や
another,
入り
and
口
then
には
another.
もっと上等なのがたむろしてるだろうし、門だってあの観覧車以上の怪物かもしれない。確か大きなキッツィちゃんだったでしょ。
青崎はゲートには行かないのか。
まあね、それよりこっちの方が現実的だし。
Is there like a service exit? Like a freight dock? Aoko took another glance at the undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve their goal of making it out alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made.
今からこの鉄柵を壊すから、あなたはそこから外に出て。それで私の役割はおしまいよ。
Though her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling him to escape by himself.
信じられない。こんなの青崎だけじゃ壊せないだろ。
私だけならね。でも今はこの遊園地が味方してる。燃料がこれだけあるんだから、私は重心になるだけでいいんだし。ま、それでも一回が限
Pumping
度
fuel
だ
right
から
back in the tank as you're
穴を
burning
開け
it.
たらあんたには全力で走り抜けてもらうしかないけど。
She would carve a path through this iron sea of fences, gambling on one final effort, a great incantation to launch a massive projectile that pushed her limits to the extreme. As an outsider, Sojiro could not even begin to imagine just how much of a burden this would be for her. All he could imagine was a hazy vision of Aoko being left behind in this park. What would happen to her? Would that girl in black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she would not. After Aoko had exhausted her very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Aoko off the hook was if Aoko killed Sojiro as payment. And so...
20メートルぐらい離れてて。準備に手間取るけど、その卵の表面が茹で上がるまでには終わらせるから。
Went without saying that this was the only path.
待ってくれ。俺を逃がすって言うけど、それに意味はあるのか、青崎。
If, once Alice is done with you, if she'll just come and finish him off.
ないけど、外に出られたところでアリスから逃げ切れるとは思えないし。けど、これぐらいは最後の意地よ。守るって言ったんだから、できるところまでやらないと。
Surprised by her seemingly moral stance, Sojiro saw Aoko in a new light. Ah, but of course. Sojiro realized that she was not fighting for his sake, but for the sake of her pride.
そうだったな。
I'm not doing this to help you, Baka.
けど、それなら俺だけ逃がすのはらしくないぞ。
何よ。いいから離れてて。
For some reason, Aoko took a step away from him. She was recalling how, an hour ago, he had gotten the better of her.
青崎、まだ意地を張れるんなら他のことをやろう。このお化けみたいな鉄柵を壊せるなら他に壊すべきものがあるはずだ。
Yeah, use it for like one big good attack.
ないわよ。悪いけど、私は目に見えるものしか壊
against
せない。
not a fence.
最後まで形のない希望にすがるとか考えるのも寒気がする。いい？今はフラットスナークなんかよりこの壁を壊してあんたを足抜けさせるのが私の現実。私に負える最大限の責任って。
How do you know you can't beat it?
逃げるのか。
Aoko was just about to turn her back on him when Sojiro clutched her hand. His words caused something inside her to boil with rage. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. The surprise that pricked open one of her true feelings and the disappointment she felt towards herself thawed her frozen limbs.
誰が逃げるのはそっちで逃がしてあげるのはこっちだって言うのよ。甘く見ないで。いざとなったら遊園地ごと爆破してみせるわ。
Nah, you're kind of just running away from, having to actually see him die and hoping, he gets out first and then you die. Well, at least I don't have to be around when he fucking kicks it.
そうか。なら、ここで俺を逃がすのは無駄だな。その気迫は本命のために取っておこう。それまでは
No,
俺も手伝う
even
か
if she
ら。
doesn't realize she's consciously doing it.
は？手伝う？それこそ無駄な気遣いよ。頭きた。いいから逃げろバカ。だいたい走り詰めで息も絶え絶えなやつなんか使えないわよ。
I mean, he seems to be doing pretty good.
そりゃいい加減ヘトヘトだけど、そういう青崎なんか疲れ以上に傷の方が傷んでるだろ。
Not to mention the injury to her back that Aoko had nearly forgotten about. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that automaton had inflicted on her spine. With iron will, she'd managed to push it out of her mind, mostly.
ほら、魔術とか抜きにすればまだ俺の方がマシじゃないか。入り口までおぶってい
Fucking
くことぐらい
couch
なら
potato of a
なんとか。
mage.
できないことは口にしないで。もういいから言って。慣れているもの、私は。でもあなたは違う。こういうのだからいいの。
The fact that they were a team. The fact that she would still have to kill him after all this. None of the irony was lost on her as she said these words. Because none of it mattered anymore. Still, Sojiro didn't let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever. Aoko frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset with her.
確かにこういうのは初めてだ。けど山じゃ危険な目ぐらい合ってる。鹿に襲われたことだってあるんだぞ、俺は。
Alright, I know that sounds funny, but like a deer and rut? Man, those things will fuck you up. Even when I was hiking in the woods alone up in the mountains, I had my 357 on me and a deer jumped out in front of me. He had a nice rack on him, and I'm like, shit, is it fucking mating season? Am I gonna have to, like, fucking throw hands with this deer? But fortunately, after we just stared at each other for a little bit, he just hopped away into the underbrush again. Man, it fucking gets your heart pumping. Fight or flight's a bitch. As a city girl, she had no idea what it meant to be attacked by a deer, but his determination was apparent enough. Also, their hooves are razor sharp. They'll fucking cut you up. True. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure throughout it all. A normal person would barely be able to talk through such panic. Perhaps growing up deep in the mountains, far from civilization, had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much.
だから信じてくれ。少しでいいから。
He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings, and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest, so much that she found it hard to believe him. Sojiro had no reason to go that far. As it stood, Aoko had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer to help a person like her?
わからない。どうしてそこまでするの？
Oh, it ain't over till the fat lady sings.
私に付き合えばあなたは死ぬのよ。これが最後だからちゃんと考えてよね。あなたはここで逃げるべきよ。
それはわかるよ。でも行かない。
Sojiro answered immediately, realizing that Aoko was looking for his reason. This level of insight in Sojiro's demanded a round of applause.
そうすると青崎が死んでしまいそうだ。
His words were as rational as always.
だからどうしてそこまでするのよあんたは。
She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Sojiro replied,
そりゃ君が好きだからだろ。
Yeah, you guys are friends. Friends. Just friends. Best of friends. Just a couple of besties. Simple and to the point. His face seemed to ask why she would even question him so. There was no pause. There was a pause. No more than 2 seconds. His surprise attack had stopped Aoko in her tracks. Alice was not the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper than the flat snark could ever hope to. All Aoko could respond with was an expression of pure shock. It was a simple, stubborn reason, the strongest kind on Earth. Sojiro Suzuki was indeed incomprehensible to be able to work unconditionally with someone who was trying to kill him. But she felt as though she'd finally grasped a sliver of his true nature. Tobimaru and the others' assessment of him was correct, as vexing as it was for her to admit.
バカね。私はあなたのこと嫌いなのに。
A dip? I'm not familiar with that insult. He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. Their clash of wills ended here. Aoko's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a face like that, all she could do was try to think of a way to get them both home.
ま、私だって逃げっぱなしは性に合わないし。いいわよ。最後まで粘って。
You've been doing a pretty good job of it so
それに
far.
しずきくんが付き合ってくれるなら、何かの役には立つでしょ。
Though her tone had lightened, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural. Aoko had not even a clue as to how to begin to fight the snark. If only she had been just a bit more skilled, or trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look for it.
我ながら情けない。せめて正体を暴く手がかりでもあればいいんだけど。
Without realizing, she let her apprehension show. Whining was pointless. She would just have to figure it out by herself, but...
ん？なんだ？正体さえ分かればいいのか？
え？
Aoko gave him a look as if to ask what that was supposed to mean.
いや、だからおかしなものはどれかってことだろ？
Sojiro also made a face that suggested she should have brought it up sooner.
わかるのあんた。
多分。いや、結構前から気になっていたんだけど。
Sojiro whispered in her ear quietly, so not as to be overheard.
Oh?
It was certainly unexpected. But then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At least, she had an inkling of the flat snark's original form, namely... What could it be? Tick-tock goes the clock. They strategized for 10 minutes. After deliberating regarding the snark's true form and figuring a plan of attack, the two exchanged nods and acceptance of their roles.
それじゃあ、ここからは別行動ね。でも、ミラーハウスの時みたいなのは勘弁してよ。この作戦の肝はあなたなんだから。開始1分でドジったら、本当に打つ手なしだからね。
You need to redeem yourself on that one, bud. Sure, you got some extra credit points at the end there, but, you fucking fumbled the ball pretty hard during the actual operation. Though she jabbed him for his previous failure as a decoy, her voice was bright. Aoko's original figure had returned to her at Sojiro's discovery of the truth. Meanwhile, Sojiro was also getting serious in his own way. He took Aoko's warning to heart.
ならいいけど。いい？さっきと立場は反対よ。
You're the bait?
失敗したら死ぬのは私じゃなくてそっち。もうフォローに回れないから、できるだけ慎重にね。
分かってる。今更ながら、やっぱりさっき逃がしてもらえばよかったと思うぐらい慎重だ。
Sojiro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Though he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, it seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. Aoko let out a sigh of defeat. Once more, she couldn't figure him out.
ほんと、大バカなんだか大物なんだか。
Well, two usually come together.
でも任せた。期待してるわ、しずきくん。
She had wanted to say that she believed in him, But apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Aoko turned away from Sojiro and began to run. She had begun to think that maybe this change of pace was not so bad after all. And so ended the intermission. The young cast were handed their new lines. But what of the climax? At long last, this night of witches had entered its climax. But that climax is going to have to wait for next time for the next episode of Mihoyo because it's getting late and I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I'm enjoying it. Don't worry. It's not that, but you know, I don't want the video getting too long in the tooth. You know, you got to break it up. You got to break it up a little bit. So with that, that is where we're going to end it here for today. Once again, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for the notification bell. And I'll see you all next time for the next episode of Mihoyo where we'll get to these witches climax, huh? Catch you guys all then later. Bye. Mwah.